Hey everyone, we're going to dive into something we've all wrestled with, right? The research paper. It can feel like such a chore, but what if there's a different way to look at it? What if we could reframe the whole thing and turn it from just another assignment into an invitation to join a huge, ongoing global conversation?
I mean, does this sound familiar? You're up late, you're hunting down sources, pulling out quotes, trying to stitch everything together just to prove to your instructor that you did the reading. It can feel kind of passive, can it? Like you're just a reporter talking about what everybody else has already figured out.
Okay, but let's just flip that idea on its head. What if every research paper isn't a test, but it's an invitation? An invitation to step right into the middle of a lively, fascinating debate that's been going on for years, maybe even centuries, and you get to add your voice to it.
That's really the key. When you're writing, you've got two audiences. Yeah, your instructor is one, obviously, but the other, and this is the important one, is the entire community of scholars who care about your topic. You're not just a student learning stuff. You are a scholar in training, getting ready to contribute something new.
So, what does this conversation actually look like? Well, let's take a random, fun example. Pigeons. Imagine one researcher, Smith, publishes a paper saying pigeon flocks have a single leader. Then Jones comes along and says, nope, my evidence shows they decide by consensus. Then Gomez reads both, does her own research, and says, well, it's kind of both. Some pigeons just have more influence. You see, that back and forth, that is the scholarly conversation, and your job is to find your place in.
Now, this isn't just some casual chat, you know? This conversation has rules, and probably the biggest rule is that you have to back up what you say with evidence. To do that, you've got to know the tools of the trade, which means understanding the different types of sources you can use.
It basically boils down to three main tools. You've got your primary sources, that's the raw evidence. Then you have secondary sources, which are the arguments people are making about that evidence. And finally, tertiary sources are like the cheat sheets that give you a quick overview of the whole debate so you know what's going on.
So let's dig into that. A primary source is the raw material. It's the original stuff. We're talking about letters written by a historical figure, the raw data from a scientific experiment, a novel, a piece of art, an interview you conducted. It's the bedrock evidence that the whole conversation is built on.
Secondary sources, then, are what scholars create from that raw material. It's a historian writing a book that analyzes those letters to make a new argument. It's a literary critic writing an article about that novel. This is where the debate really heats up. It's where people like Smith, Jones, and Gomez are arguing their case. And rounding it out, we have tertiary sources. Think textbooks, encyclopedias, or Wikipedia articles. They aren't trying to make a new argument, they're just summarizing the existing ones. They are absolutely fantastic starting points to get your bearings before you dive into the deep. Okay, so you've got the tools. Now, your first job in this big conversation is just to listen, or, to read. You have to get a feel for what people are already talking about before you can jump in. So, as a reader, you might start with a company's annual financial report. That's a primary source, raw data. Then, you'd read a business journal article that analyzes that report. That's your secondary source. And maybe before all that, you glanced at a textbook to understand the industry in general. That's a tertiary source. You're consuming all three to get the full picture. All right, but here is where it all clicks into place. This is the big shift. You are not just a passive consumer of information. You are also a creator. You have the power to actually produce knowledge and add to the conversation.
Seriously, think about this. When you go out and interview someone for a project, you're creating a brand new primary source. And when you write that research paper with your own unique thesis, your own argument, you're creating a secondary source. You are literally doing what scholars do. Even writing a detailed summary of articles for your own notes is a type of tertiary source. You're already doing it.
So you see, it all comes together here. You're constantly switching between these two roles. You read primary sources to find evidence, and you create them when you do original research. You read secondary sources to understand the arguments, and then you write your own to make your voice heard. That right there, that's what it means to be a scholar.
Okay, but one really important thing to remember. Just because something is a primary source, raw evidence, that does not automatically mean it's 100% objective truth. All evidence needs to be questioned.
You have to put on your detective hat. A painting of a historical battle? It's a primary source, sure, but it's an artist's interpretation. A company's financial report? You better believe they're going to put a positive spin on things. A personal diary gives you one person's perspective, but it's just that, one perspective. You always have to ask, who made this and why? What was their angle?
All right, you're fired up, you're ready to join the conversation, you get the rules, you know your role. So where do you actually find the good stuff? Where do you get those primary sources to build your case?
Well, your university library is about to become your best friend. And most library databases have this amazing, almost hidden feature. You can actually filter your search results to show only primary source material. It is an absolute game changer. And it's super easy to do. You just head to your library's website, find the databases, and then when you search, look for a filter. It might be called source type or content type, something like that. Just click it, select primary source material, and boom, you've just filtered out everything else and are looking right at the raw evidence.
So, that's the big secret. Research isn't about just reporting what's already been said. It's about becoming part of the conversation yourself. You're not just a student anymore. You are a scholar, a creator, an active participant with a unique perspective. You've got the tools, you know the rules. So, the only question left is, what are you going to add?